Yeah, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. This is the first day of a 7-month program that I'm teaching, where each Sunday and Wednesday I teach little by little, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. I realize some of you guys might just be here popping in for meditation and had no idea that's the case, and that's fine. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to start off guiding you in a meditation session, and then afterwards I'm going to share what are the teachings of the Buddha and what the teachings of the Buddha are not. And then I'm going to share details on this program that I'm going to be teaching, because whether you're here in Thailand or you join online, you can actually be gradually learning the path to enlightenment that the Buddha taught, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a complete transformation to the way that your mind functions and the way that you experience life. So if you're interested in that, that's what I'm going to be sharing after meditation, is what the teachings of the Buddha are, what they are not, and then I'll share details about this program and what it's all about. And then you can decide for yourself if you would like to attend regularly, either here at the temple or online. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting. The chanting is to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, he would come together with his students and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they would commit it to memory, where today we use books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this. They didn't have that 2,500 years ago. So they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So it's important to keep in mind that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. None of those kinds of things exist in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with his teachings, he actually didn't teach those kinds of things. Those are misunderstandings that people are having now about his teachings. He didn't teach rituals and ceremonies and prayer and all this kind of stuff. So if you choose to chant along, which the chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet, you're welcome to help yourself to get one. If you choose to chant along, understand that it's not a ritual or ceremony or prayer. For those of you guys that are online, if you would like to see these chanting sheets and chant along, you can go to our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and scroll about 2/3 of the way down the page, and you'll be able to see the chanting sheet there. So once we're in the meditation, after the chanting, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where I'll essentially be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together, everyone here at the temple and anybody joining online. During this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, it'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's why you can eliminate these feelings from the mind, is because it's the mind itself that's actually causing it. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing you to be angry or sad or frustrated, but it's actually your mind itself that's causing that. That's why you can actually eliminate it. So the teachings of the Buddha help you to be able to see this in a way that you can independently verify, and then he gives you the tools and the training to be able to help you eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing this. So if you're in meditation, understanding that the world is impermanent and it's constantly changing, when you hear a sound, you'll just understand that that's normal. Those sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And you can be at ease, being peaceful, understanding that's the way the world functions. After that period of time of quietness, we'll come out of meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. In this program, I'm going to be teaching all those positions, but here at the beginning, I'll just kind of give you guys some guidance on the seated position, and then that way you can learn these other positions at other times. So you could be sitting any way you like. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. You can find whatever you like. So what I'm going to share with you are just recommendations or suggestions that you can consider, but it's really up to you to decide for yourself how you'd like to sit. Whether it's something that I share with you or something you come up with on your own, you can sit however you like, either on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, maybe you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair, you can sit however you like. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede impede the circulation on the lower body. Sometimes people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here for you as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And if you need a piece of fabric or something like that to cover your body, there's some fabric over there that you might find that to be more comfortable. Over by the donation box, you're going to see there's some fabrics over there, because I see the young lady has the dress on. Maybe she feel more comfortable to wear some fabric over her legs when she's sitting. Somebody donated those recently for this purpose, so help yourself. So you could sit like I just described, or maybe if you're in a chair or a sofa or something like this, maybe you would like to sit like that. And if you're sitting on a chair or a sofa, sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So this is why you like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation, so you can actively train it. So I'm going to get started with some chanting, and if you'd like to join in, you're more than welcome to, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Sama sammuto imahakewa Wat Tung mahakewanang apiwateyami Savakato imahakewata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano imahakewato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso imahakewa Arahang Sama Sammuto Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good evening to all of you guys here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you guys that are online. This is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to other things that the Buddha used in order to train his mind to be able to get to enlightenment. This is a meditation that we're going to be doing at the beginning of each class, where you'll see that I'm starting with this meditation at the end of pretty much each class on Sunday. And then afterwards, I'll move into some talk, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. Today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing what are the teachings of the Buddha and what the teachings of the Buddha are not. And then I'm going to talk about the program so people understand what it is that I'm going to be sharing over the next 7 months. But just a little bit about this meditation. If you were noticing that you had a lot of random thoughts during meditation, this is very normal for the untrained mind, for the unenlightened mind. You might have had lots and lots and lots and lots of thoughts. It's important not to judge your meditation as being good or bad, or thinking that you're bad at meditation if you had lots of thoughts, because the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think. Instead, what you're doing is you're cultivating the ability to be able to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner, and to be able to cut them off and let them go easier and easier. So you might have had lots and lots and lots of thoughts, or you might have followed a thought for a period of time for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then you realized you were meditating and then decided to bring your mind back to the breath. This is all normal. I'm going to be teaching on Wednesday the ins and outs of meditation to help students to be able to understand that. So I'm just going to kind of pause this little bit that I'm saying here about meditation so that I can move into talking about what it is that I plan to discuss today. But I like to just kind of help people to understand up front when they're first starting in a program like this, that there's more details on meditation later. And if you were having some challenges in your meditation, that's completely normal. You'll probably have those for many months and many years until you actually are able to meditate more consistently and be able to build up your practice to the point where you're not having all those random thoughts so frequently. But even as an enlightened being, you will still have thoughts during your meditation. So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to help you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are and what they are not. And at different times, I'm going to be pausing and opening up for questions, whether you're here at the temple or you're online. You guys can ask questions. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there. We have some up here as well. If you could get a microphone, that'll help the people online to be able to hear you. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you. And then for those of you guys that are online, if you could put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So the best place to start with understanding the teachings of the Buddha is to just understand what is an actual Buddha. So I'm going to introduce you to his teachings by first just talking about what is an actual Buddha. What a Buddha is somebody who's actually gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. You're going to understand a little bit more about enlightenment today as I teach, but this individual, they would have gotten to this mental state where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience anger, sadness, frustration, or any of these other discontent feelings. And he would have figured out how to do that with his own wisdom. Then he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing his independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. And then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So those are the three criteria of what makes a Buddha a Buddha. Oftentimes you will hear people tell you that everybody is a Buddha. But the Buddha never actually taught that. It's very rare for a Buddha to exist in the world. The last one that the world's currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. So these are the three main criteria of what makes a Buddha, but they also meet these other criteria too, that they have a deep, profound memory. Even in the unenlightened state, they can remember countless details about their current life and their past lives as well. For example, the average human being, they usually have recall over the last 5 or 10 years of the things that they've been doing. That's why, if you think back to your childhood, you can remember certain things about your childhood, but you don't have direct recall. You just kind of have spotty memories. It's kind of like a hard drive that you have a limited capacity. 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. And when you reach capacity, you need to delete old files in order to store new files. So this is why you just have spotty memories of your past, because you've had to delete those files. But for someone who's going to become a Buddha, even in the unenlightened state, they don't need to do that. They have an unlimited capacity to remember countless details, and they accumulate all that wisdom over multiple lifetimes to be able to apply it in their last lifetime to be able to then get to enlightenment by themselves. So this is one of the criteria of what makes a Buddha is they have a deep, profound memory, an unlimited capacity to remember details. They can also quickly determine the condition of someone's mind by spending time with them. The Buddha figured out these individual pollutions that are in the mind, and when you uproot those pollutions and get them out of the mind, that's where you're actually experiencing enlightenment. So a Buddha is somebody who would be able to observe those pollutions in other people's minds and then be able to provide that person teachings to help them to be able to overcome those pollutions. But they only do it with their students. They don't give unsolicited guidance to somebody just standing on the street or at some restaurant or something like that. It would only be with their students. Then a Buddha is going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever it is that they teach, they're going to be practicing those same things as well, because they understand that their students are learning just as much through their spoken words as they are through their actions. So they're actually going to be practicing the exact same things that they're teaching as well. So these are the things that make a Buddha a Buddha. We refer to this type of individual as fully, perfectly enlightened. The reason why is because if you learn from a teacher who's not a Buddha, you might actually get to enlightenment. And whatever it took to get to your enlightenment, you'll be very pleased that you've gotten to enlightenment. But there might be still some extra things that you're doing that didn't actually lead to your enlightenment. Like say like a certain meditation. Maybe this particular meditation, you've been doing it, it didn't really contribute to your enlightenment, but you're actually practicing that meditation, just maybe out of respect for your teacher. And because of that, that individual would have a little bit of extra baggage in their mind mind. But by the time you get to enlightenment as a Buddha, which again is very rare in the world, this individual doesn't have teachers. They would have discarded anything that didn't lead to their enlightenment. So if they try a certain meditation and it's working to improve the condition of their mind, they know that that's the path to enlightenment. But if they try a certain meditation and it doesn't work to improve their mind, they will discard it so that way they don't have that extra baggage around anymore. So that's why we call them fully, perfectly enlightened, because what they know by the time they get to enlightenment is the path to enlightenment. And then they spend the rest of their life illuminating that path for other people to be able to see it and understand how to get to enlightenment. So again, this is a very rare type of individual in the world. The last time that people are aware that someone like this existed was 2,500 years ago. So this is why you're going to need teachers and guides to be able to help you. But what a teacher is like a tour guide. They're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and understand. You are your own individual practitioner. You're not a devotee. You're not a follower or anything like that. You are an independent practitioner looking to cultivate wisdom. And a teacher is like guiding you and pointing out for you the things you need to learn and understand. And you're doing that work to be able to learn, investigate the teachings, to reflect on those teachings, and then to independently verify them through your practice and actually training your mind. We'll talk about that a bit more here in a moment. What the teachings of the Buddha are is it's a path to attaining enlightenment in this life through purification of the mind. You're uprooting certain pollutions in the mind and getting those out of the mind. And as you do, you're going to see improvements to the quality of your mind. We talk about it as attaining enlightenment, but one of the ways you might think about it is that the mind's already enlightened. It's kind of like there's the sun and there's the clouds in front of the sun. And when the clouds are pulled away, the rays of the sun start shining through. The sun was always there. It's just that the clouds were blocking it. It's the same thing, that there's this enlightened mind and there's these pollutions that are in the way. And when you get rid of those pollutions, the qualities of enlightenment can shine through. The only difference in the analogy here is that the clouds are eventually going to come back and block the sun again. But once you get these pollutions out of your mind, they won't ever come back again because they've been uprooted and completely eliminated out of the mind. So the Buddha is providing you the path or the training, the detailed guidance of how to train your mind to get those pollutions out of the mind. So this is a mental state that you can attain in this life. It can also be attained at death, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience any of these discontent feelings: sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing it. Again, what most people think is it's the outside world that's causing these feelings. But what you'll find next week when I teach on Sunday is I'm going to teach the very first teaching of the Buddha, where you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And the beauty in this is that because your mind is actually causing these feelings, you can actually eliminate it. Whereas if it's other people that are causing you to experience a certain feeling, you can't ever eliminate it because you can't teach 8 billion people to do things your way in the world. But it's physically impossible for someone to insert a feeling into your mind. If there's something going on within somebody's mind, that's coming from within the mind itself. It's not coming from the outside world. And this will become more and more clear to you as you study the teachings of the Buddha and you independently verify them and see this truth for yourself. So all of these feelings can be eliminated by eliminating the pollutions that are causing it, by purifying the mind. As you purify the mind and get rid of these pollutions, not only will you eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings, but you'll also notice that your mind starts performing optimally. You'll have a high degree of focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because when these pollutions are in the mind, your mind will be hindered from having those types of qualities. So your mind will start performing more and more optimally. You'll notice you have deep wisdom about the world that other people don't have. That by the time you're getting to enlightenment, you're going to understand the world and how your mind functions, how the world functions. You're going to understand why people experience the things that they experience. And this is where your mind needs to be ensuring that you don't have conceits or arrogance, because you'll see somebody struggling with something that's so simple and so basic to you, but to them it's very difficult and so much of a struggle. So you'll have wisdom about this world that other people just don't have. That's why the mind's performing so well. And then there's politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect that you don't have in the unenlightened state, by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll have that for all beings. Because there's probably certain situations right now where you're impolite, you're unkind, you're unfriendly and disrespectful. And oftentimes people think that that's coming from the other person, but it's actually coming from your own mind. It's not the other person who's causing you to do that. It's your own mind that's choosing to do that. So by the time you get these pollutions out of your mind, you'll notice that you can be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in all situations. You're not causing harm to others in the world through causing harm to their physical body, to their material possessions, or their reputation. That's what you'll be able to accomplish. And because of that, you'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. That in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility that comes out, and you're putting that out in your relationships, and it's damaging your relationships. And then that stuff all comes back to you. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not doing that anymore for a long-term period of time, that you're being loving and kind and warm and gentle with all the people around you. And you'll see your relationships really blossoming. They'll be at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer. The way that this is occurring is through uprooting what's called the three poisons, or the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. These are referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance. This is a high-level way to talk about the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. The deepest level of detail, they're actually called the 10 fetters, which I'm going to talk about in this program at a later time. But here what I'm going to do is just give you guys an overview of these three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots, or these three fires, so you can understand from a high level what the Buddha is talking about here. What the unenlightened mind has is it has something called craving, anger, and ignorance. I refer to this not as ignorance. I call it the unknowing of true reality, or the lack of wisdom, because people are translating from the words of the Buddha that he spoke into English, and the Buddha wouldn't have called people ignorant or stupid or foolish. That's a derogatory, degrading way to refer to somebody, and an enlightened being doesn't talk about others in that way. Instead, a better way to think about it is confusion or misunderstanding, or the unknowing of true reality. So what craving is, this is the mind's longing, yearning, where it's chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it. It thinks that if I can just get that thing, everything in my life will be perfect. And it's forming its inner feelings on some external thing. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy, it gets excited. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry and frustrated and sad. What the mind's doing here is it's craving permanence, and it can only be happy if it gets what it wants. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really excited and happy about that, that's called conditional happiness. That based on the condition that the sun is present, the mind now experiences happiness. But the problem with this is if you base your feelings on the sun is not permanent. So that means your happiness is not permanent. As soon as it starts raining, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated or some other feeling. Or say that you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here. That means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. That's because the mind's craving permanence, and it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. But the thing is that you live in an impermanent world. Everything's constantly changing in the world around you. So as long as you allow your mind to crave permanence while you live in an impermanent world, it's only a matter of time before your mind doesn't get what it wants and what it expects, and now you're going to end up in the anger and sadness and frustration. So when this craving is in the mind, it can be happy when it gets what it wants, and it's going to be angry or frustrated when it doesn't get what it wants. When that anger is arising, the mind in the unenlightened state firmly believes that it's somebody else or some external circumstance that is causing it. So what the mind will tend to do when that anger is arising, it's very uncomfortable for the anger to be there. And the mind thinks the way to solve this is to push people away. You might have noticed that you become unskillful. When you're angry, you might have pushed away a person, or you might push away a situation. This is called aversion, where you may be pushed away friends or family out of your life, thinking that that was going to solve your anger and frustration. But you can see it didn't solve it. That's why you still get angry. You still get frustrated. If they were the true cause of your anger, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. But you can see that that's not the case. Or the second thing you'll tend to do when you don't realize that it's craving that's causing these feelings is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing someone will do when they don't understand that it's craving that's causing this anger is they'll put their expectations on people and try to pressure them or control them to do things a certain way. And in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. And then the mind's going to want to push them away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put expectations on them. And you might actually have people doing this to you too. Maybe friends or family are pushing you away or being bitter, harsh, and hostile or putting expectations on you. It's almost like the mind's trying to live in this little bubble, and the mind wants everybody to do things this way, your way, because the mind's ego thinks my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. So the mind's trying to live in this little bubble. And if somebody does things differently than you, the mind will push them out of your bubble, or you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to them, trying to fear them into doing it your way, or you'll put expectations on people, trying to pressure them to do it your way. But you can't live harmoniously with all beings this way because there's 8 billion people in the world, and we all do things differently. There's only one person in the world that actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way? He knows. Do you guys know who does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself. So if you can only be peaceful and happy around people who do things your way, you can only be happy and peaceful with yourself. And you might actually have trouble doing that from time to time. You probably get mad at yourself sometimes, right? So there's a better way of life here that the Buddha taught. And the way that you get to that is you cultivate wisdom. Because what's keeping the mind in this craving and anger is the ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It has misperceptions or misunderstanding about the world and how it truly functions. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's actually because of ignorance that craving and anger continues. Because the mind firmly believes that it's other people that are causing you to be angry. It's not until you penetrate into the very first teaching of the Buddha where you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings and you can see it for yourself. And that's where you understand that, there's a solution to this. Because if I'm causing it, then I can actually fix it. But with this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, your mind will stay stuck, where you'll keep craving things, trying to form inner feelings based on external circumstances. And you can only be happy if you get what you want. And when that anger comes up, you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile and do those other things. So there's this better way of life, which involves cultivation of wisdom. That's what the Buddha is helping you to do, is he's helping you to cultivate wisdom of something called the natural laws of existence. Primarily, the natural law that he's helping you to learn about is the natural law of Gama. You might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit way of referring to that, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study his teachings will tend to use the word Gama. If this translated to just one English word, I would just use it because it'd be easier for everyone, but it doesn't. What this word is it means cause and effect, or action and results, the results of your decisions. Whenever you make decisions, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce Gama. And if you make decisions wisely, you'll experience wholesome Gama, or wholesome results. If you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome Gama, or unwholesome results. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. There's no being that's overseeing this and controlling who experiences what. One of the ways you might think about the natural law of Gama is as a sequence of events. That whenever you make a decision and you put that decision out, there's going to be some result that you experience coming back to you. And when you lack wisdom of this natural law, you'll tend to make unwise choices. And that's where the mind will blame it on other things. The mind typically blames these unwholesome things that you experience on good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or some people say it's God or some entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience, or some people blame it on others. But it's actually your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing. And again, the beauty in this is when you can see it, that it's very empowering, because if there's anything in your life that you would prefer not to occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. It's kind of like if I was walking down the beach and there was wind blowing in my face and I'm kicking up the sand and the sand's blowing back in my face. And if I'm like, this is good luck, or this is bad luck, or this is my destiny, this is my fate, or this is God or some entity called the universe that is causing this. Or if I start blaming it on other people, well, I'm just going to keep walking down the beach, kicking up sand, and I'm going to keep getting sand blowing back in my face. But when I can understand that it's my own choices that are leading to this result, now all I need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and I experience different results. I'll just stop kicking up sand. So when you have wisdom, you'll make better decisions and you'll experience improved results in your day-to-day life. So that's what the Buddha is helping you to do, is cultivate wisdom about this natural law of cause and effect. Because when you lack wisdom of a natural law, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions and you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. That's what the anger and sadness and stress and anxiety is. At one point, we actually were struggling with the natural law of gravity. When we were first born into this world, we struggled. We fell down. We hit our head. We bumped our elbows. We broke our toys. And we cried and cried and cried. But slowly but surely, we cultivated wisdom of that natural law. We never believed that that natural law existed. We could see the truth for ourselves. We can see it right there. That's the natural law of gravity. Boom. Right? Nobody's believing that this natural law exists. We can see the truth for ourselves. So this natural law of gravity affected us whether we were aware of it or not. And once we became aware of it, we started making better decisions. Where when we lacked wisdom of it, we really struggled. We cried as children when we fell down and had difficulties. But slowly but surely, we started making wiser choices. We started tying our shoes tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk as we were walking down the street. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. And that's why now we don't struggle and have difficulties with the natural law of gravity. Right? Now, if we fall down, we might even start laughing at ourselves. Right? We think it's funny. Whereas a kid, we didn't do that, right? So we might say that we have fully awakened to the natural law of gravity, or we are now awake to the natural law of gravity, meaning we have cultivated wisdom. So when we talk about awakening to enlightenment, it means to cultivate wisdom of this natural law of karma. And that's what you're doing on this path through learning, investigating, and examining the teachings of the Buddha. That's what's helping you to intellectually understand. Then you reflect on those teachings to verify, are they true or are they false, based on your direct experience in your day-to-day life. Then you practice the teachings, training your mind through those teachings and making decisions through those teachings. That's what's actually going to create the wisdom so that you can completely transform your mind and transform your life. So the Buddha didn't explain to you the way the world should be. And if everybody follows rules and commandments, that the world's going to become a better place. That's not what he did. He actually taught you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, now you can awaken to that wisdom. You can cultivate that wisdom and now navigate the world more peacefully through understanding this natural law of cause and effect that is affecting us whether we're aware of it or not. So what you're doing is you're training the mind to experience complete peace and joy by acquiring wisdom of these natural laws to eradicate these pollutions that are in the mind. The teachings of the Buddha are timeless. He spoke very clear, very concise, and very precise. When you read his teachings, you don't need to interpret them. You don't need to figure them out. You can actually see he taught very clear and concise. And his teachings are timeless because he's describing these natural laws that existed 2,500 years ago. And those natural laws haven't changed. They're the same natural laws that exist today. So you'll be able to see that they're very clear, very concise, and they're timeless. It will help you to be able to make decisions even today. He did teach about the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence. But when somebody first gets started with the path to enlightenment, I suggest you set that stuff aside. There's ability for you to independently verify these things, but that's not typically what you do when you first start on the path. It's something that you verify later. But he did teach these things for a reason. What's happened in the past is in the past. It doesn't matter right now. What may or may not happen in the future, it's in the future. Right now, if you're a human being and your mind is experiencing anger and frustration and sadness and all these other feelings, you know that your mind's unenlightened, so work on that. So I suggest people start with the core central teachings of the Buddha and just set the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence to the side, and then approach it later when you're able to approach that and be able to independently verify it. In this book series of 13 books that I share, in volume 11, chapter 105, I have 17 different criteria of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because it's not something that you typically approach when you first start. But I'll share with you the reason why the Buddha taught this so you'll understand. So the cycle of rebirth is something that the Buddha taught in the 5 realms of existence because it's actually true. This is actually what's happening in the world. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence that you only have one life, other than the fact that maybe right now you can't remember your past lives. But as you start training your mind on this path to enlightenment and you uplift this pollution out of your mind, there's the potential that you might actually start having memories of your past lives. So if you started having memories of your past lives and you didn't understand that that's what that was, it could really shake you up. So for example, let's just say you started having vivid memories of being murdered, right? You're started reoccurring in your mind over and over and over and over again, all throughout your day, all throughout your week, all throughout your month. You kept having these recurring memories of being murdered. Well, you know that didn't happen in this life, but that could really shake you up if you kept having those thoughts over and over and over again. If you didn't realize that was your past life, right? If you understood that's your past life, you can just let that go and you don't have to pay it any attention. But if you don't realize that, it could really affect your mind. Or say for these realms of existence, there's the hell realm, which are formless beings. You guys are familiar with the animal realm. Then there's afflicted spirits, which are ghosts. Those are also formless beings. Then there's human beings, which you guys are very familiar with. And then there's the heavenly beings, which are also formless beings. And oftentimes people think that these beings are like deep down in the core of the earth or way up in the sky somewhere. But in reality, all these beings are in the same time and space. Just like humans and animals are in the same time and space, like there's a human being sitting here in this chair, and I could get up and leave, and there could be a dog or a cat or a squirrel, or more likely a cockroach could come and sit in this chair, right? Those kinds of things can happen because we're all in the same time and space. The same thing's true for these beings. So some people can actually see these beings, right? If you see a hell being or a ghost or a heavenly being and other people can't see it, you might think you're going crazy and you could be shaken up. But if you understand that this is the way the world is, then you understand that that's normal. Or say, for example, some people can actually hear communication from these beings. Hell beings, afflicted spirits, and heavenly beings. They can hear their voices. And if you didn't understand that this is the way the world is, it could really shake you up. But if you understand that this is normal, just like you ignore that conversation at a restaurant 2 tables over where 2 people are talking really loud, you can do the same thing with these beings. You can train your mind to just ignore it. Right? So the Buddha taught these things for a reason, because you might start having experiences like this. You might actually start having observation of your past lives or seeing beings in a different realm like hell, afflicted spirits, or the heavenly realm. Or you might start hearing voices from these beings in other realms. So it helps you to be able to understand this is the way the world truly is, and you might have these experiences. Sometimes people think that the Buddha didn't teach about this being of God. Some people will go as far as saying the Buddha denied the existence of God, or the Buddha rejected God. Or sometimes people say the Buddha was asked the question about God and he refused to answer it and said that it was irrelevant. This isn't actually true. The Buddha taught about this being of God. He didn't put God at the center of his teachings because it's not God who determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. So he didn't put God at the center of his teachings. He put you at the center of his teachings. But he did teach about this being. But he doesn't teach you to fear this being. He doesn't teach you that this being is controlling what you experience. He doesn't teach any of that stuff. He doesn't teach you to worship or praise this being. He just helps you to understand this being and how this being functions in the world. So you can actually get to enlightenment with a relationship with this being, but you can also get to enlightenment without a relationship with this being. It's a choice for you to make, but he puts you at the center of his teachings because it's you that are making the decisions of whether or not you're going to train your mind to get to enlightenment. So he did teach about this being, and you'll see that in his teachings. If people tell you otherwise, they just haven't penetrated into his teachings deeply enough to be able to understand that he did teach about this being. The largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha is in something called the Pali Canon. It's referred to as the Pali Canon because it's originally in the Pali language. Now that's not a spoken language any longer, but this is 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. So it's very comprehensive. And the average person doesn't actually study the Pali Canon. This is why we have so many misunderstandings in the world. If you can think of times maybe when you were a child where maybe you whisper to a friend and you're sitting in a circle, you might say like the pink tiger jumped over the brown fence and landed in the green pond. And by the time it goes all the way around the room in about 5 minutes, when it comes over here, it's like the gray elephant, walked through the brown barn and fell in the yellow cornfield or something like that, right? It's completely changed in just 5 minutes, right? So the same thing has happened with the teachings of the Buddha. From 2,500 years ago, people have been handing them down orally from person to person to person, and people massively have changed his teachings over the years. So what you would like to do in order to be able to get to enlightenment is go back to his original source teachings. And that's what I share with you guys and all the classes that I teach, all the courses, retreats, all the books, all the videos, podcasts, any resource that I share. It's all based on the original words of the Buddha. And I encourage you not to believe those teachings, but instead to learn them, examine them, and investigate them, reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false, and then you practice those teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to be able to train your mind. And that's where you'll see the real results with these teachings. So we call this book series The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden. Because for a long time, these teachings have been hidden because they're very costly to be able to print out for the average person, these 45 volumes of books that are this big. So here in Thailand, the average person doesn't even have access to the original words of the Buddha because it would be 3 months of their salary to be able to print that out. And you probably don't own any book collections worth 3 months of your salary. So the average person, the average temple, doesn't even have access to this. So what we've done here is we've consolidated these 45 books into 13 books, and then we give it away for free. You can actually download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And that way you'll have a complete collection of the consolidated teachings of the Buddha. So that's what everything that I teach is based on. And then lastly, what the teachings of the Buddha are is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. That's what his teachings are. It's doing this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, becoming a better and better person. Because most people in the world are experiencing all kinds of hurt, all kinds of pain within their mind and within their life. And they think that it's the outside world that's causing this. But what you come to understand through the teachings of the Buddha is that it's your own mind that's causing this. And when you do the inner work and inner growth to improve it, you'll see that your mind and your life just gets better and better and better. So this path is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will never experience any mental anguish. There's no mental pain for an enlightened being. It just doesn't happen. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are. Remember here, you guys have microphones, and online you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So do you guys have any questions here or online? No questions? Okay. All right. So now what I'll do is I'll share with you guys briefly what the teachings of the Buddha are not. This is one of the ways that I teach is I share what something is, and then I share what something is not, because that actually helps you to understand what something is to understand what something is not. So the teachings of the Buddha are not a collection of beliefs, doctrine, concepts, opinions, and views that will produce a pleasant afterlife if you believe in them, and an unpleasant afterlife if you do not believe in them. In fact, his teachings aren't even about an afterlife. His teachings are about right now, getting to a peaceful and joyful life now. His teachings aren't belief. There's no belief, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it. because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. His teachings aren't opinions or views. His teachings are truths that you can independently verify through your own direct experience in your day-to-day life. So this isn't what the teachings of the Buddha are. Depending on how you think about religion, I would say the teachings of the Buddha are not a religion. But it depends on how you think about a religion. If you think about one person at the top of a religion telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't do, or if you think about a religion as having rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, or if you think about a religion as having rules and commandments that everyone must follow in order to create a peaceful world, the Buddha's teachings aren't a religion, because there isn't one person at the top telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing. There's also no rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship in his teachings. If you see those kinds of things associated with his teachings, those are gross misunderstandings that people are having about his teachings. He never taught any of those things because it doesn't lead to wisdom. Everything that he's teaching you is to lead to wisdom. And there's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you that's going to cultivate wisdom. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that are going to help you to make better decisions in your career or in your relationships or anything like that. So he didn't teach rituals and ceremonies, and he didn't teach rules and commandments either. He's teaching you how to train your mind and uproot these pollutions out of the mind, how to cultivate wisdom. The teachings of the Buddha are not punishments and rewards. If you've been taught that way through other traditions, the Buddha's teachings don't have any of that stuff. There's also nothing mystical or magical or superstitious or auspicious. He talks about this in his teachings. He says that his teachings don't have any of those things, but you'll see a lot of that stuff in the world because of all the misunderstandings. Also, his teachings are not something to attempt to force others or convince other people to do. Sometimes when you come to places like this, they will load you up with a bunch of things, and then they will teach you to go outside and convince other people to think in that same way. But that's not what the Buddha's teachings are. It's not about going out and convincing others of anything at all. It's about you and you training your mind and you deciding that you would like to become a more peaceful and joyful person, that you would like to interact in the world in better ways, that you're tired of the anger and the frustration. You're tired of the broken relationships. You're tired of the difficulties and struggles that you experience. So you'd like to do something better. And that's what the Buddha's teachings will guide you to be able to do. If you've spent any time on social media, you might see these little short, catchy phrases and little memes, and then somebody will put the Buddha, right? The Buddhist teachings don't have little short, catchy phrases. They're these long, very deep, very profound teachings, but you'll see people that will attribute any particular quote to the Buddha. And when I've tracked these things down, 99.99999% of the time, it's not the teachings of the Buddha. It's actually a quote from like in the last 50 years or the last 200 years. It has nothing to do with the Buddha at all. So those things can oftentimes be misleading. So if you see little quotes that are attributed to the Buddha, you should just know that they're probably not true. Then lastly, the teachings of the Buddha are not teachings that are stuck in a cultural past that degrades or denigrates or judges any particular group of people. Sometimes when people know that the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, they think, oh, the Buddha must have degraded women, right? Or minorities or same-gender relationships or something like that. It's not true. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with Buddhism, it's not from the Buddha. The Buddha never taught that women are less of a person. The Buddha never taught that same-gender relationships are any kind of problematic thing because there's no harm there. It's two loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have sex with each other. They're not causing harm to anybody at all. So the Buddha doesn't degrade or denigrate anybody, and he doesn't teach based in culture. Because what culture is this group of people have decided that these things are acceptable. But then this group of people over here has decided a completely different set of things is acceptable. And now when you're moving from culture to culture, it becomes very difficult to navigate because your mind is thinking about culture and you're trying to figure out who is it that you're interacting with here, especially in a place that has multiple cultures living in one place. It's very challenging to navigate that, right? But if you get to the natural laws, which is what the Buddha taught, You can go anywhere in the world and you can function through those natural laws, and you'll be able to function with ease and be very peaceful in those environments. So the Buddha didn't teach based in culture. His teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past that degrades or denigrates any particular group of people. So do you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are not? No questions? Okay. So what I'll share with you guys then here is just a little summary. What a Buddha is a Buddha is someone who's gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So this is a rare and unique type of individual, where the last one that we know about existed over 2,500 years ago. Then the path to enlightenment is a journey of learning, growing, developing, evolving, cultivating wisdom to be able to make wiser and wiser decisions in your life, purifying your mind through gradual training, gradual progress to experience gradual results. What enlightenment is it's a mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where you don't experience any discontent feelings any longer. So now what I'm going to do is introduce you to what the teachings of the Buddha, what this program is all about. I'm going to explain to you what the program is, why somebody would be interested in taking it, and I'll explain to you how this program actually works. So what this program is a 7-month learning program that guides students in developing a life practice to be able to attain enlightenment based on the teachings of the Buddha. So slowly but surely, over a 7-month period, I'm going to be helping students to be able to understand those teachings. It's going to help you to develop a comprehensive life practice, which includes meditation. So we're going to be working on helping to develop your meditation practice. You're going to be able to receive guidance from a teacher through weekly live classes or recordings, because sometimes you might not be able to attend the live classes and you can access the recordings. And there's books that you can read. And I've also turned this book into an audiobook. So if you don't necessarily particularly like sitting there reading yourself, I'll read it to you through the audiobook, and you can kind of follow along in the book. There's also little quizzes that you can take. Of course, these are all optional, how much you decide to get involved in this type of thing. But at the end of each chapter, there's a little quiz just to help you confirm that you understand what it is that you needed to understand. And if you take those, great. And if you don't, no worries. Nobody's checking those things. It's completely up to you if you would like to use those or not. I don't even look at the scores to see what people actually got. It's just there for you. In fact, there's a couple of jokes in those quizzes that maybe you'll laugh at and get a chuckle when you're working your way through the quiz. So this is what you can do in order to be able to learn. The other thing of why I would actually take this, or somebody might be interested to take this program, is to train the mind to attain enlightenment. That's the only reason to take a program like this. Again, if you're tired of the heartache and misery, if you're tired of the broken relationships, getting to enlightenment is what's going to solve all of that. If you're tired of having a difficult relationship with your parents or your siblings or your life partner, you can improve all of that stuff. You can attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, where you don't experience any of these discontent feelings. You can experience a peaceful life where you face challenges with wisdom. Instead of having problems and difficulties and struggles, you'll have challenges in life, and you can face those through wisdom. And training your mind through these teachings will help you to do that. It's going to help you improve your personal and professional relationships. You're going to be able to improve the way your mind functions, where you can experience focus, concentration, clarity, and deeper memory. And ultimately, by getting to enlightenment, an individual will eliminate this continuous cycle of being reborn over and over and over again. The way that this works and how it works is each week I teach live, either here at the temple, or if somebody would like to join online, they can join online. I teach at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings and 9 p.m. on Sunday evenings. What I do is I go chapter by chapter in this book every Sunday. And then on Wednesdays, I teach meditation. These are the same classes, whether it's 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. I just do it at 2 different times because, like this morning when I was teaching, the people in Europe were sleeping. So now that they're awake, they can actually attend a live class if they like, right? And then if people can't attend the live class, it's actually recorded on Facebook, YouTube, and our podcast, because sometimes you might not be able to attend the live class. So over a 7-month period, maybe some classes you attend live, some classes you watch the recordings. And then same thing, like Sundays, oftentimes people can attend, but maybe Wednesday they're at work. And if you're in North America, Central America, or South America, these classes might be Saturday evening and Sunday morning, or they might be Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning. You need to look at your local time zone. But on Sundays, I'm going chapter by chapter and opening up to questions. And then on Wednesday, I'm teaching meditation and opening up to questions. We also have a Facebook group where students post questions in there, and I answer those questions. So if you would like to join our Facebook group, you can do that. I'm the only person who answers the questions there. The students will just learn from your questions. There's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, quizzes to help you. And you can receive help in 4 different ways. You can ask questions in a live class. You can post in our Facebook group. You can send a private message and I will answer that for you. Or you can schedule personal guidance where I will meet you online or meet in person and be able to help you. Because it's one thing to learn in class, but it's a whole other thing to apply it to your day-to-day life. So I'm here to help you. I'm motivated, and you can get in touch in any of those different ways. The way that I do this is 1 chapter per week, where it's based in independent study. If you would like to learn in this program, you can attend classes and I'll teach you, but there's certain things in the book that aren't in the classes, and there's certain things in the classes that aren't in the book. So if you actually take your time to do this private independent study, that'll really help you, because you're going to need to do this independent verification where you're learning, reflecting, and practicing the teachings. You can't believe what it is that I'm sharing. You can't believe what I write in books. You're going to need to independently verify what it is that I'm sharing with you. And then slowly but surely, you can develop a daily meditation practice, which I'm going to help you to do that in class by doing meditation with you each class. But then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be teaching meditation. So that's what I'll be doing to help students build up their practice. And then if you've learned things in other places, I encourage you as best as possible to set those things aside. Because whatever you've learned before, it isn't 100% the truth, because otherwise your mind would already be peaceful. You'd already be joyful. There's certain wisdom about this world that you don't understand right now. If your mind experiences anger and sadness and frustration, then that means there's certain wisdom that you haven't learned yet. So in order to get to wisdom, you're going to need to, in some cases, set aside things that you've learned before. Whereas if you're in a classroom and the teacher's teaching you the exact same things that you already know, you're in the wrong classroom. So you're going to hear things from me that are completely opposite of what you currently think about the world. And that's a really good thing, because then it allows you to cultivate wisdom and get more and more awake or more and more enlightened. Whereas if I was just teaching you the same things you already know, you're not actually learning and growing and developing. So you're going to hear things from me that are different than what you currently think. And that's an opportunity for you to ask questions and get clarification so that you can independently verify what I'm sharing. Because everything that I teach, I've independently verified. I'm not teaching you something that somebody else told me. I'm teaching you things that I independently verified. And if you're having difficulties to see how to verify that, just ask me and I will help you to be able to see how to verify each individual teaching that I share. So you're going to need to, a certain degree, set aside what you've previously learned, because that'll keep your mind open to be able to bring in this new wisdom and be able to train your mind through this. This is the book that you would like to acquire. Again, you can get it on our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us, or you can order it on Amazon. I encourage you to start with this book. This is a book that you're going to probably read many, many, many times. I have some students that have been studying with me many years. They say they've read it 8, 10, maybe 12 different times. And each time they actually read, they actually gain insight from the book and continue to learn. This is the schedule of what we're going to be doing over the next several classes. Again, it's a 7-month program where on Sundays I go chapter by chapter in this book. But the first few Sundays, that's not what I do. This Sunday, we're actually just doing a welcome and introduction to the program. But over the next several Sundays, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into this core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. I'm going to break it down into the 3 sections that the Buddha broke it down into: the wisdom section, the moral conduct section, and the mental discipline section. So over the next 3 Sundays, I'm going to be teaching that. This is part of chapter 4 and 5 of the book, but I'm just going to be going deeply into it. And then eventually, after I teach the 10 fetters on the 5th Sunday, we're going to be starting on chapter 1. And from that point, the 6th Sunday, I'm going to be doing chapter 1, and then the next Sunday, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, from that point forward. But here at the beginning, we're going to be doing a deep dive into these topics, because within that number of classes, you'll be able to see the teachings of the Buddha pretty clearly in that period of time and how comprehensive they are. And you'll be able to understand the path to enlightenment to a certain degree with those classes. Then on Wednesdays, the first 4 Wednesdays, I'm going to do a 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation, helping students to build up their practice of breathing mindfulness meditation. Then after that, I'm going to do a 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, helping students to build up that type of meditation. These are the 2 primary forms of meditations that a student would need. And then the program is going to continue from there, where we're going to be alternating between breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation each Wednesday. And then I'll just open up to whatever questions students have. So this is our plan for the foreseeable future until we get to the actual chapter 1, where then we'll just do it chapter by chapter each week. So lastly, and then I'll open up to any questions that you guys might have and kind of in class there, is no one's ever accomplished anything great and magnificent through complacency. One of the things that the mind has in the unenlightened state is complacency. It just wants to stay stuck where it currently is. It's not necessarily willing to do the work to experience this better way of life that the Buddha taught. So you're going to need to really dig in, to be determined, dedicated, and diligent, to not allow complacency to set in, because your mind can be like, I'm not going to go to class today. I'm not going to read today. I'm not going to meditate today. You'll probably do that to a certain degree, but you need to work your way through that so your mind isn't allowed to do that, because otherwise you're just going to stay stuck where you currently are, and you're not going to be able to learn and grow and develop and experience this better way of life. So an individual will get out of this program whatever they put into it. It's just like everything in the world. If you put in effort and energy to learn and grow and develop, you're going to get a lot out of this program. But if you don't, then you won't get that result. So it's up to each individual to choose to apply effort and energy towards growth and development in their life. And the beauty about this particular path is it's kind of like climbing a mountain. When you get to the top of a mountain, if you're climbing an actual mountain, it can be really challenging to get to the top of the mountain, and you get a beautiful view and you get fresh air, but then you've got to come back down the mountain, right? This type of mountain that you climb, if you focus on just one step at a time, next thing you know, you'll be halfway up the mountain, and there's going to be a certain amount of work and effort to get there. But once you get to the top, you never have to come back down. Once your mind's in the enlightened mental state, it's a permanent mental state. You'll be experiencing that peace and joy permanently. You'll never experience anger and sadness and frustration, any of those feelings ever again. So this is a type of mountain that once you climb it, you get to stay at the top and you don't have to come back down. So any questions on the program or anything else that I've been teaching today? All right, I don't see any questions here or online. Okay, so what I'll do then is just in class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for you in this program, but we also have other programs too. You can see our bulletin board over there has all the different things that we have available. And then also on our website, for those of you guys that are online or even you guys here, you're welcome to check our website and you'll see all the different events and opportunities for you guys to learn. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.